Hey guys, Richie here from the Sword and Staff podcast and the docu-series Shadow Appalachia. I know a lot of you guys have been wanting me to elaborate on some of the stories I have from years of investigating the paranormal and the things I've experienced over the years in my life that sort of led into that journey. Been a little reluctant to open up about that side of things. I mean, there's a lot of trauma there, a lot of things I experienced growing up that has really shaped who I am as an adult now. As a lot of you know, some of my earliest experiences, I experienced hauntings about as far back as I can remember. My earliest memory of something paranormal happening was the lights I used to see when I was very young. I used to see these dark shadows or these white lights. And then that sort of evolved into seeing apparitions and things like that. But one of the major experiences that really stands out in my mind was I can remember standing in my bedroom when I was younger, and there was this big yellow or orange baseball bat. I think we all had one of those. They were really thick, plastic. I remember complaining that it was moving all over my room at night. Like you could hear it thumping and banging and crashing into things. And I remember I got so fed up with it that I stomped it and flattened a piece of the orange bat to where it couldn't roll. And I thought that's the end. It can't roll, it can't move. And I shoved it under my bed, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, the bat is laying out in front of the door. So, I mean, that's just one of many, but that's my earliest really experience with object manipulation. But another thing, when I was younger, I can remember going to school. There was a time period, I was really young, about 8 years old, going to school, and the teachers thought I had an imaginary friend, and I would tell them, they would ask me, who you're talking to? And I would tell them, I'm talking to my brother. And I only have one sister, so it's just me and my sister. So I thought, but yeah, they would ask me, who are you talking to? And I would say my brother, and they would press me on it, and they would say, oh yeah, I'm playing with him on the playground, and I'm talking to him in class. And finally they called my parents and brought him in, and my parents explained to him, well, he doesn't have a brother, he has a sister. And no, I insisted, no, I have a brother, he's my older brother, and I talk to him, I play with him, things like that. And there were some concerns there. Like it seemed a little bit more than a imaginary friend or something make-believe that I was kind of making up on the spot. Like it caught the attention of the people around me at school and things. And it was only later on in life that my mom actually told me that before I was born, she had a miscarriage and that they suspected that it was a boy. So just interesting things like that would happen to me throughout my life. So even then I had a sense of this brother, like I was playing with him, like I was, talking to him like he was there. So it's just one of the experiences. Around the same time is when I started to experience the shadow figures. The shadows that would stand at my door at night, the ones that would peek out of the closet. They would move, they would open up cabinets and doors and things all hours of the night. I would get my covers pulled off of me. I'd miss a lot of school because it was hard to sleep when you're being attacked in the middle of the night by a ghost or a demon. And it was just a rough time. Like people had no idea what to make of this. Like my family had no idea what to make of this. Like it's like, is this a mental illness? Is he struggling with some kind of something at school and he's lashing out? Like they had no idea how to frame any of it. And then it got to the point where later on in my life, they started experiencing things too. The hauntings ramped up and we all started experiencing activity. But yeah, it got to the point where out of desperation, a family member had posted something about what was going on, and the community was talking about it like it was this big thing. Like you growing up in a small town, like any news of something like this is going to be big. There was threads online that would talk about me. There was teachers that were talking about me. Like, I was the talk of the community for a long time with these experiences. A lot of skepticism, a lot of, just poking fun at it. There was some support, but, it's few and far between. And that sort of ran through all of my high school experience. And it was very traumatic. And it came to a point where a very popular TV show, I don't want to name drop it because, the TV show went on to help a lot of people like me. But they contacted me and wanted me to be part of the show. They showed up. We done some interviews. It was the talk of the town that there was a TV show here to film. Even the name of the thread I remember from Topics. Like, it was a gossip website from back then. The name of the article was like, "Who's that guy from Mud River who sees dead people?" And like, they would just post in there and trash me all the time. But it really ramped up when the TV crew showed up, and they offered help. They came with psychologists. They came with paranormal investigators. They came with experts. Like, they offered help, and the help they offered was great people, phenomenal people, like people that I'm still in contact with today. But the attention and the notoriety and the spotlight and the things that, people could drive by and see the film crew. So, it was a lot. And that's not something that I wanted. Like, it's not something I wanted to be known for. It's not something that I wanted people to know about, really, period. It was a lot of things I struggled with internally at that point, and that was when things sort of exploded from, this is a private struggle, and close family and friends knew about, and more people in the community too. Okay, this is out there. The whole county knows about this. It's in threads around the state, and it's about to be, if I let this happen, be national TV. And people around the world watch this channel, watch this show. So it should have. It would have been more than anything I would have wanted at the time, or that I want now. So we filmed a little bit, done some interviews, and I declined there at the end to do the show. Things went on from there. By then the cat was already out of the bag. People knew that the production team had been involved and what they were there for and what they were contacting me for. And it led into probably the darkest season I've ever experienced in my life. Like, it was like 12 years old through the end of high school, to where not only was I experiencing these hauntings and trying to make sense of the paranormal things that were happening to me, but also struggling with people making fun of me and people, gossiping about the situation, and, all the rumors and talk and speculation. Like, it was wild. Like, those are the most formative years of my life. And imagine going through, just the normal ins and outs of being a teenager, and then adding the paranormal stuff on top of it. It was a lot. Like, I remember just recently, I sent over some messages from 2010 and earlier to Josh and them, so they could see. Found the messages where I was talking back and forth with the crew, and it was a time where I was telling them, like, word for word in the messages, I was telling them, like, this is misery. Like, I just want to die. Like, I don't want people to know about this, and there's no going back on it now. And it was the darkest time of my life. Like, I was very suicidal. Like, I was seriously contemplating suicide at the time. It was like who could relate to something like that? Like, you got people at school that you can talk to about, shared experiences that you have growing up just as being teenagers and peers. But when you go to school and you tell people, hey, I'm being scratched. Hey, I'm having my covers pulled off of me in the middle of the night. I'm being slapped and pinched by something unseen. Like, my whole family is experiencing the paranormal. We're seeing shadow figures. I'm seeing full-bodied apparitions. I'm hearing voices calling out to us, like the voices that the whole family heard. It's just, how do you relate to people like that? How do you share those experiences? And they're extraordinary experiences. Like, I get it. Like, if it didn't happen to me, I'd probably be super skeptical of it myself back then. But yeah, it was just, that really launched my whole journey into the paranormal. As soon as, like, I was probably a freshman in high school when we did our first investigation. Like, I found some people who were equally into the paranormal, who were having experiences. We decided to, seek out and find answers for ourselves. So we formed a paranormal team. Every weekend we were out doing cases, doing investigations. And that sort of changed shape and form, but the journey stayed the same for a good part of 15 years after I got out of school. So, I mean, it's been a huge journey. It's taken different forms over the years with different people. But yeah, like, there's not a part of my life that I don't remember not having, a paranormal experience. Like, it's just been there. It's been something that's been there forever. Like, people talk about, like, a normal life or whatever normal means. I don't know what life is like outside the paranormal, what life is like outside these experiences. And when people, with the popularity of the podcast we do now and Shadow Appalachia and things, there's a lot of attention back on me, on Josh, on the podcast, the content. Like, it's something the content itself is something that's really popular in the mainstream now. And, people are naturally curious, especially those on the Christian end. That's where we approach things from our podcast and our content that we make. Those people in that realm, they're very curious about my experiences growing up, my experiences as a paranormal investigator, how that relates to the Christian walk and all this. And, it's every day there's somebody, you should go into detail about some of the things you experienced investigating or the things you experienced growing up. But those were the most traumatic years of my life back then when I was having those experiences. And it was a time that I didn't have the worldview that I have now. I didn't have the categories that I have now. I didn't have the understanding of things that I have now. I didn't have the faith that I have now. And, my faith in God, my experiences now have been a catalyst for that. Like, I've experienced things that people only contemplate and theorize about, things that to them are a belief or an idea are solid reality to me. They're things I've experienced. So it's been a struggle, but it's also been very good for my faith. Now, like, I see the plan God has for me. Like, looking back in the moment, like, I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, what for the rest of my life? What am I supposed to do with this? If this is something that's going to follow me literally my whole life, what do I do with it? And finally, after struggling with it, I met up with Josh and the guys that I know now, and we got to talking about divine counsel theology and this Christian spiritual worldview, and for the first time, things connected. And, I found my place in the kingdom. I found my calling. I found what I'm meant to be doing in the time that I'm in, and it's been a huge blessing. Like, I'm literally living the life that I prayed for then, and it's just the faithfulness of God. So it's been a long journey. It's about to start a new season in this journey, a more balanced and solid season in this journey. Like, there's no more fear or doubts or hesitations or second guessing. I've come to terms with a lot of things. I've had to say no to a lot of things in my life, clear a lot of things out to make the time to start back in doing casework and filming investigations and the podcast and things, and being a voice on this subject in this sphere. And yeah, I can't wait to get back into it. Like, there's a sense of excitement, of joy that I didn't. It's so weird to associate with this stuff now, and back then it was pain, it was trauma, it was fear. I mean, it's experiencing the unimaginable. Like, people, they tell scary stories and they tell ghost stories and they go into these places, these haunted places, trying to get some kind of cheap thrill and scare. They don't understand what living a life of that's like. Like, yeah, it's a rush to go in there and, have an experience when you're looking for it. But when you're just trying to live a normal life and you're being terrorized and traumatized by it, it's a fear that it's that there's no explaining it. Like, there's a fear. It's a fear that you just can't describe unless you've been there and experienced it yourself. So, but yeah, this year I'm going to be opening up a lot about those experiences. I mean, there's a ton, 15 years worth of casework. I mean, I've done hundreds and hundreds of investigations. We've helped countless people. We've worked with the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church. It's been a crazy journey. And I'm excited about this new season, this new part of life that is a lot more balanced, a lot more focused, and I get to work with some of the best people I know. God has assembled this. I always joke and say He's assembled the Christian Paranormal Avengers. When I look at my team, like, we've got these guys that come from various backgrounds who all bring something to the table, have their own skill sets, and it's amazing that He's assembled this team to be able to put out this content and to reestablish the Christian voice in the paranormal. Before the influence of paganism and the New Age, Christian demonology used to be the standard for paranormal investigation. Like, the church had the standard, the church was the standard. Christian demonology, Christian theology, biblical worldview, it was the answer to paranormal experience. You had investigators like Ed and Lorraine Warren who really, set the framework for what modern paranormal investigation looked like through a Christian lens. They worked exclusively with the Catholic Church. I know that I'm Protestant, but I have a lot of friends who are Catholic. In fact, the first people who really embraced me on my journey into the paranormal were people and priests in the Catholic Church. I used to investigate cases that the priests would bring to me when they're trying to, like, if someone in their parish comes to them with an experience and they're applying to the church for help, I would go in and gather evidence and present it to the priest, and he would take it to his hierarchy, and they would get sanctioned help for the individuals through the church. And that sort of journey built relationships and really helped me to see that Christians have the categories for these things. They have the worldview for these things, and that we don't have to sit by in fear of stigma and backwardness and putting our heads in the sand while pagans and the New Age, run the gamut on this thing. So it's been a long journey. It's been a fruitful journey. I know with the podcast and things alone, Josh and I have helped tons of people. We get messages almost every day, people telling us, I've just discovered the podcast, or I've been listening to it for a long time and it's helped me so much. Like, and not just from lay people in the churches, but from pastors and ministers and things. Like, hey, we're experiencing these things in our congregation. Like, these experiences are on the rise. People are experiencing the demonic, the supernatural. And, before your podcast or before your content, we had no idea how to handle these things. Like, we thought that, that kind of thing was out there and it would never show up on our doorstep. So if it never showed up, we didn't have to address it and think about it. And it was just something that we could talk about and theorize, but it's here. How do I shepherd my people? So, it's been a wonderful journey. We've been able to help a ton of people, and, the road continues. We're working on a new series now with Shadow Appalachia, working on expanding the podcast and making new content, and all within the Christian realm. So I'm looking forward to all that, and I'm going to be more transparent and open about the things that I've experienced. I know that there are a lot of people who message me within the Christian community, who are experiencing things and are just wanting the right framework. They're experiencing the unexplained, they're experiencing the unimaginable, and they need answers. They want answers now. They want a framework to understand these things. And the Christian worldview has it. Like, it is our worldview. The take on the supernatural, the authority on these things belongs to the church, belongs to Christ. So it's an honor to do this work, to be able to be that voice with my brothers that I work with on these things in this realm. And 2024 is going to start off with a bang, and we're going to be producing some great content. So just wanted to hop on here and share some experiences and give a little background and acknowledge some things. And I know there's been a lot of questions, people asking questions, but we're here. We're gearing up for a new season of the podcast, getting ready to start back filming for the series, and we'll check back in with you soon.